We're going to be going game by game and breaking down the fantasy football takeaways from week number 5. It's in the book. We're heading to Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football where you have Bills, Patriots, Jaguars, Chiefs. We're going to have, obviously, those takeaways in next week's video. But listen, the Broncos and Eagles. We'll start off there. So the Broncos, in terms of Courtland Sutton, that's the big takeaway I have here for Denver. Courtland Sutton has strung together a couple nice back-to-back games here. 8 catches on 10 targets, 99 yards. The receiving usage is very, very encouraging there. And if you're a Courtland Sutton owner, you're going to be very, very happy in the future. Troy Franklin, a lot of people, including me, spent a lot of fab on this guy, thinking that the breakout was coming for this, dynasty sweetheart. Seems like we were wrong. Troy Franklin, he still is almost tied with Evan Ingram for second in targets here. But really, Sutton was the only receiving option that was fantasy relevant outside of Ingram scoring the touchdown. You're encouraged by Ingram having 6 targets and getting the touchdown, but he's still somebody that I feel like is going to be volatile moving into the future. RJ Harvey continues to be volatile as well. This was Dobbins' backfield today. Dobbins, when healthy, they're going to give him the rock. He's going to be the number 1. He looked explosive too. 79 rush yards and a tutty. He had a good fantasy day. He also had 1 target, 1 reception. The Eagles side of things, they targeted their receivers, but they lost. So do they change the script? Because if we look at the Eagles rushing, so, looking back for what the first 4 weeks prior to this were for Philadelphia, they were not having enough pass attempts, but they were rushing it a lot. They completely flipped it, man. You throw the ball, Devontae Smith, 10 targets, A.J. Brown, 8 targets, Dallas Goedert, 9 targets, and Saquon has 6 rush attempts. Saquon owners, you might be fuming if Saquon didn't have a 30-plus yard receiving touchdown. He salvaged his day there through the air. But still, it's definitely a scary thing. This Philadelphia offense, you can't really trust anybody here in terms of starting in your lineup, except for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has 2 passing touchdowns. Again, no rushing touchdown for Hurts, though. And not much on the ground at all. So kind of a weird day for all these guys, and I expect it to continue moving forward. Devontae is going to be a flex play. Saquon and Brown are going to be in your lineups. Goddard is also kind of like a borderline tight end streamable option. You don't want to be, I'd be disappointed owning any of the Philadelphia Eagles, and I don't predict that changing at all moving forward. Vikings and Browns. You had Jordan Mason getting banged up. Xavier Scott looks like trash, man. Do not have this guy on your team. Low priority. Don't send him to waivers. That's all we got to talk about for him. Addison was benched in the first quarter, in case you don't know. It sounded like he missed a team walkthrough. He was out looking at London, and he was benched in the first quarter. Now he has the game-winning touchdown. He has 6 targets, 5 catches, 41 yards, and a tutty. He's startable moving forward with Carson Wentz. Now, are we going to have Carson Wentz for another week? That is also something to consider. I think the Vikings also might be on bye weeks, if I'm not mistaken. But you have Hawkinson, continues to get some good receiving usage from Carson Wentz, who likes throwing the tight ends. And Jefferson with Wentz, it seems like they're having a very, very good connection. Wentz is a borderline streamable quarterback moving forward. He actually looked pretty good against one of the toughest defenses in the league. Cleveland Browns, Judkins is a league winner. He's an absolute smash. Dylan Gabriel, who cares? Nobody's really starting him here. But he actually played all right. Receiving-wise for the Browns, I don't know who you can trust, right? So you would think to yourself, I bet Fannin is solid, and Fannin actually has a decent day. He has 4 catches, 13 yards, and a tutty. That's 11 fantasy points? Okay. But it's actually discouraging because Njoku has 2 times the amount of targets, and Njoku is the lead receiver here. None of the Browns receivers can be trusted. This Dylan Gabriel guy did not even look their way, would not be starting a single one of them. Raiders and Colts. The Raiders are a foul team, foul offense. I'm actually encouraged by Ashton Jeanty. He still had 14 carries and 70 yards, and through the air he had 7 targets, and he was productive on those targets as well. Trey Tucker almost scored a long touchdown again, but he finishes with 10 fantasy points. You don't trust anybody here from the Raiders except for Jeanty. You trust Jeanty. Maybe you trust Jacoby Myers in the flex spot. It's not really ideal. Maybe matchup by matchup. Indianapolis, Daniel Jones is a good starter quarterback option, man. And, low pass attempts, still has 2 passing touchdowns, and really the game script flipped where Jonathan Taylor, who's going to be in the top, he's going to move up from A tier to S tier in my running back rankings. Jonathan Taylor, 17 carries, I don't care about the yardage, 3 tutties. The goal line back, man. Tyler Warren, another receiving touchdown. Pittman, a receiving touchdown. If you look at the receiving totals on the day, their yardage marks weren't impressive, But everybody except for Downs had a tutty that you care about. Pittman, Warren, tutty. Josh Downs didn't have a tutty, but he had 8 targets and 6 receptions. So it was actually a pretty productive day overall for Indianapolis. And Josh Downs, while it's not ideal, 11 points, at least he had, 8 targets, the most targets in the offense. Maybe Daniel Jones, Indiana Jones, that is, actually remembers he exists. Giants and Saints. Cam Scatterbo is a must-start option. It remains that way. Jackson Dart is also a streamable option. He added 55 rushing yards. They're going to design more runs for him in the future, so he has some rushing upside, and he had 2 passing touchdowns as well. Theo Johnson seems like it's his red zone friend. He tied for the team lead in targets against New Orleans. So I think Theo Johnson is potentially a streamable tight end. Bellinger was also involved, but Kendre Miller out carries Alvin Kamara. More rush attempts, more rushing yards. Very, very bad for Kamara. Now, looking at one other thing for the Saints. Taysom Hill's back, boys. Taysom Hill is back. He was in there passing the football. And did he get any rushes? I'd be surprised if he didn't. Yeah, 6 carries for Taysom Hill. Now, he was back from injury, so his usage is only going to increase in my eyes. I think Taysom Hill might be worth a waiver wire. He might be worth a waiver wire look before his price goes up after a pop-off game. I keep telling you boys that Shaheed is a good flex play, and he will remain that way. He breaks, he hits his head on the goalpost, gets the long touchdown, fastest touchdown of the season so far, and you have Olave who just remains getting all of the targets for this Saints offense. Cowboys and Jets. The Jets, everything looked really, really bad going into half. They were a second half team, and they put up 19 points in the second half, 16 in the fourth quarter. Fields redeemed his day, 32 of 46, 283 with 2 tutties, no interceptions. Not really efficient on the ground here. Breece Hall is a good starting option. Garrett Wilson's a good starting option. And Mason Taylor is a must-add waiver wire target. 12 targets, led the team. 9 catches too. So this guy actually looked like he was heavily involved, heavily targeted. I'd probably start Fields. You'll see my rankings, but Fields, Mason Taylor, Wilson, and Hall all are honestly potential lineup plays, because the tight end position is weak. The Cowboys, Javonte Williams is also moving up my rankings to A tier. Now, how much higher do I have to put him? I'm not really sure. He's involved heavily in this Cowboys game plan. He had 140 rush yards and a touchdown. And, he was also 2 targets and a receiving touchdown as well. Dak Prescott, 4 passing touchdowns on the day. You'd think that George Pickens smashed. He really didn't. He only had 4 targets and some Ryan Flournoy. Pretty weird. Don't even know who it is. It's bait. It is a trick. Don't even worry. Ferguson has been S tier in my tight end rankings, and Ferguson, you start him every single week without a doubt. Dolphins and Panthers. Jalen Waddle with no Tyreek Hill saves his day. He has 9 targets, brings in a nice touchdown that almost won the Dolphins of the game. Too little, too late. Darren Waller, I guess you start him. To be honest, I think people are I would trade him. I would trade Darren Waller high while you still can. Devon Achane is a must-start running back, but he was completely inefficient with only 16 rush yards in week number 5. Embarrassing, but the receiving usage alone had a touchdown as well. A nice toe tap touchdown. Rico Dowdle is actually trolling you in fantasy. Why? Because when Chuba Hubbard's back, now it's going to be more of a committee, I feel like. Dowdle just had 200 rush yards and a tutty. It was inevitable. This Rico Dowdle was good for Dallas, and he popped off in a complete game-changing way to carry the Panthers to this win. He will be more involved, which is not good because it's going to make both of them, less favorable starts. Think of Jacksonville and kind of how their committee approach is. Ted McMillan remains a good flex play, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type option, and really nobody else from Carolina is worth mentioning. Dowdle is probably worth a roster spot. How much fab do you spend on him? I mean, he's not going to be the RB1 when Chuba's there. So, Texans and Ravens. Ravens defense is terrible, and I think you have to target options that play the Baltimore Ravens. Nico Collins has a very good game. He brings in the touchdown. He has 50 receiving yards. Not too shabby, but honestly, the pass distribution for the Texans, the ball was spread out among all of these receivers. Dalton Schultz had an all-right day. Everyone was just mediocre. Everyone's getting 5 or 6 targets. Nick Chubb out carries Woody Marks 11-7, and he actually out rushes him too, brings in the touchdown. And Woody Marks and Chubb only have 1 target each. Woody Marks did not have a good day. The Ravens side of things, it was bad. It was a bad day. You're happy that Zay Flowers had 12 points, but it's just any Baltimore Ravens, it's just hard to trust any of them. Titans and Cardinals. Alik Iomana sadly only had 4 targets. It was a Ridley breakout game, brings in half of his 10 targets, 130 receiving yards, surprisingly no touchdown. Pollard gets a touchdown to salvage his day. You can't really trust Pollard. Now, Tyjae Spears was back and he did nothing. I don't know how you can trust Pollard when you're not, if Pollard doesn't get a touchdown, he's proven he's like an 8 or 9 point option. It's kind of like DeAndre Swift, so he's a borderline RB play if you need him. Emery DeMarcado is a bum. Michael Carter was the starter for the Cardinals, and Michael Carter is a high priority waiver wire add. He's going to be the starter moving forward, especially with DeMarcado fumbling away the Cardinals win, which probably is going to cost them the playoffs. Carter has the touchdown. Now Kyler Murray adds a rushing touchdown. I told you guys last week, it's a matter of time before Kyler gets involved on the ground in the end zone, which actually salvages his day when he only has only zero passing touchdowns, right? So very bad. MHJ, decent day, only 5 targets. McBride, decent day, only 9 fantasy points. The Cardinals and Titans, man, just not great. Bucks and Seahawks, and here's where we have some offensive firepower. Scam Darnold, 4 passing touchdowns. He remains streamable. Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet split the backfield. Walker's more efficient. Charbonnet steals the touchdown. I would hate having either of these options because you're not going to know. They just limit each other. JSN, amazing game. He remains in the upper echelon of receivers. He's a top 5 wide receiver option moving forward. Kupp also has a decent game with 9 targets. AJ Barner is borderline streamable, but we'll have to monitor that moving forward. Torrey Horton, another game with a touchdown. I don't really know if you can trust him starting your lineup, but he now has 3 touchdowns, I think, in 3 different games on the season. Baker Mayfield has a good day. Only 4 incompletions out of 33 pass attempts. You have Rashad White, no Bucky Irving. He has 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. And you know what Rashad White's known for is the receiving role, 4 receptions on 4 targets for 30 yards. Tez Johnson, best game of his year so far, 4 for 60. Godwin is disappointing. Give him some time. We're going to give him 2 more weeks. If he's still a bum, you panic. Egbuka is the future here along with Godwin, but Egbuka has completely shown out, and I would hold on to this guy. He's a league winner. The Detroit Lions, David Montgomery and Gibbs. You have Montgomery outplaying Gibbs almost in every aspect. I guess Gibbs was a little bit more effective, but Montgomery has the rushing touchdown. Montgomery has the passing touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown remains my number 2 receiver behind Puka. He is an S-tier option without a doubt. Laporta is hard to trust. The target volume is not great, but his name was called a lot. Isaac Tesla is elite. They need to get him the ball more. It's just as simple as that. Jameson Williams, same thing. Jameson Williams was a non-factor. I think Jameson Williams, you can't start him moving forward. It's just hard. Now, they do take on the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think Jameson Williams, they might have to pass a bit more. So keep that in mind for week 6. The Bengals, Browning was getting booed. Chase Brown, it's bad. He had 8 targets. He was completely inefficient in every aspect of the game. Higgins, absolutely terrible. Salvages his day with a late touchdown. Jamar Chase, 6 for 110 and 2 tutties. It's a big game, man, but you can't expect that in any way to be consistent moving forward. Jaden Daniels, he's back. Only 15 completions, 1 passing touchdown, adds 39 rushing yards. Better days ahead here. They a long week. They take on the Bears on Monday Night Football, so give him some time. JCM has his biggest usage yet. He has 2 rushing touchdowns, 100-plus rushing yards, and the receiving usage, which was encouraging. Terry McLaurin was out. Deebo Samuel smashed. Deebo's a must-start. JCM is a borderline flex, and Daniels is a must-start. The Chargers, you have Hampton with an ankle injury. Hopefully that's not bad, man, because Hampton, his usage was great. 6 receptions. Quentin Johnston, down game. Keenan Allen, a better game than last week. 9 targets, decent game. The big Q, I'm still starting him. Keenan Allen, I'm probably starting my flex. And Ladd McConkey, decent game as well because of the touchdown. It's not really encouraging for Ladd, though, because he was only 8 points outside of a touchdown. You can't rely on that. The 49ers and Rams, Kendrick Bourne. If you have 49ers receivers injured and you have Mac Jones in there, I think Kendrick Bourne could be a flex play. Man, this guy had 140 yards. It was just insane. CMC remains my number 1 RB in the rankings. And that's really it for San Fran. We'll have to monitor the injuries to the wide receivers moving forward. For the Rams, Puka is my S-tier receiver. Devontae continues to get more and more involved in the red zone. He had 11 targets as well. Only 1 target behind Devontae. You have Kyren Williams with 10 targets, which is crazy. Kyren had 2 receiving touchdowns, 8 catches for 66 yards, 14 carries. Now, keep in mind, the Rams fumbled away this game. Could that potentially impact his usage moving forward? It definitely could. That is week 5 takeaways in a nutshell. I'll see you boys in the rankings.